Sponsored by Bangkok Bank, the Sukhothai Residences, SIPA New Decade Innovation, and Magnolia's Ratcharamri Boulevard.
Good morning, ASEAN. Freshen up your world, your thought, and your idea with us every weekday from 7:30 to 8 a.m. I'm Patsurang Desha Putharangsi.
And I'm Weena Jongprasid. It's Wednesday, the 18th of September, and just yesterday, Kun Patsurang, the former Malaysian Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad was in Thailand for a conference on ASEAN's readiness for 2015.
Yes.
And he said that Singapore is the only ASEAN member that will be ready for the economic integration by 2015. And some of the group's poorer members should be allowed to retain their economic protections. The poorer members of ASEAN are not yet ready for the AEC. Even the richer members are not really ready for the AEC. This is because their domestic policies are not similar. Mahathir told a conference on assessing ASEAN's readiness by country at a Bangkok hotel. Singapore is best prepared for the AEC because the city-state is a free port that has never relied for long periods on tariffs, he said. Other economies depend heavily on tariff duties, Mahathir said, noting that even his own country is second to Singapore in terms of readiness. ASEAN members have the ambition to liberate and integrate their economies by promoting free movement of goods, investments, services, and manpower by the end of 2015. Tariffs and non-tariff barriers are being pushed down and will be eliminated eventually. If ASEAN sticks to the original schedule for economic integration, some countries might face difficulties, Mahathir said. We should come together, but we should allow countries like Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar to protect their economies.
Now let's hear what he has to say about the ASEAN affairs.
Malaysia currently doing right now to achieve the goal of reaching a developed nation by the year developed nation status by the year of 2020, despite internal and external problems that are currently taking place at the moment?
Well, internal and external problems have been there all the time. We have grown despite the fact that we have inequalities in our society. Malaysia has grown much faster than countries where there is no ethnic problems. So I think we will be able to achieve 2020.
And one last question, sir. Do you think that Malaysia could be a leader of ASEAN when the ASEAN integration takes place in 2015 or 2020?
We are equals. We are a grouping of equal people with equal rights and with equal influence over the ASEAN. We look into everybody's problem. Nobody is a leader.
Cambodia's opposition party leaders spoke to thousands of people on Tuesday at the end of the three-day protest. More than 10,000 protesters have camped out in front of the park, the Freedom Park in the capital city. Anyway, Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen met with the Sam Rainsy, the opposition party leader, for the second time to seek an end to violence. 2 days after police used force to scatter protesters challenging a disputed election win, sparking clashes in which one man was shot dead. And Rainsy actually pronounced that the Khmer love justice more and more, so the power of people who love the nation, they will truly win in the near future. Our people, our protesters are more and more courageous and strong. This shows that we definitely cannot lose to injustice. That was the statement made by Deputy President Kem Sokha. Anyway, electoral authorities say Hun Sen's Cambodian People's Party has been in power 28 years, won the election. But the opposition says the CPP rigged the vote and wants an independent inquiry.
Philippine forces have freed scores of civilian hostages yesterday as fighting subsided in the port city where hundreds of rogue Muslim guerrillas have been battling for more than a week. The fighting, in which nearly 100 people have been killed, has highlighted lingering grievances in the Catholic majority country despite its growing economy and an agreement with the biggest Muslim rebel group that was meant to bring peace. The guerrillas who stormed into the city of Sabonga on September 9th last week belong to a breakaway faction of the Moro National Liberation Front, or MNLF. They object to a deal aimed at ending 40 years of conflict signed last October with the main Muslim rebel group, the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, or MILF, and are trying to derail it. An army spokesman said on Tuesday the guerrillas were fleeing from Sabonga and heading to outlying islands off the main southern island of Mindanao. Earlier today, Philippine troops recovered 64 hostages as they penetrated one of the villages being occupied by the rebels.
Well, the Philippines and the United States will begin war games near the Scarborough Shoal in the South China Sea waters this week. Of course, the annual exercises, which involve 2,300 Marines from both sides, will take place amid the backdrop of ongoing negotiations to further increase an American military presence and the deployment of its hardware in the former U.S. colony. They also come 3 weeks before U.S. President Barack Obama is due to visit Manila, a huge moment for the Philippines as it looks for U.S. support amid a worsening row with China over rival claims to parts of the South China Sea. Well, the Chinese will view these military exercises as yet another example of the Philippines stirring up tensions in the sea and of the U.S. taking advantage of the situation to increase its military presence. Anyway, the war games, which will last 3 weeks, will involve 2 U.S. warships and live ground fire exercises, according to the Philippine military. Staff planning exercises will also be held that will increase the capability to conduct bilateral maritime security and territorial defense operation. The exercises take place as the allies are moving closer to a planned deal that would expand the U.S. troop presence in the Philippines. Well, the pact would allow the United States to bring military hardware onto local bases and formalize more U.S. troop visits.
On the conference on assessing ASEAN's readiness for the 2015, as we have mentioned earlier in the show, Kun Onrawitang Misang has more.
From Myanmar Focus Special this episode, our program has the opportunity to talk to Dr. Zaw U, who is Myanmar Presidential Advisor on Economics. Currently, Myanmar's competitiveness ranking is at 139th place in the 2013 to 2014 Global Competitiveness Report, but he is confident that the ranking will be improved by next year due to the implementations of reforms. Let's find out more about Myanmar and its competitiveness ranking in this special interview. First of all, thank you so much for your time. As Myanmar is set to feature in the 2013 to 2014 Global Competitiveness Report, what is the plan from Myanmar in terms of improving the competitiveness of the country?
We are doing all we can. And definitely I like to bet with anyone who wants to bet me. Definitely we are going to get the positive rating in the next year. So I think there will be a big jump in our competitiveness because I know that we are moving ahead by implementing many reforms. And so our competitiveness will greatly improve, not in the near future, next year. Next year, I think definitely we will have a big jump.
Big jump. Okay. Within ASEAN, the competitiveness level, which level do you see in Myanmar next year?
Definitely, I think we are going to beat some of our neighbors. Yeah. So definitely, I think right now we are the last country in the ranking. So definitely, I think we should improve a lot.
Why are you so positive that you could beat some of your neighboring countries?
Because we already have a lot of built-in advantages. Like, our location is such a strategic location where we have we are the only country in the Southeast Asia that is between the 2 largest economies in the world, India and China. And then we also have a sea access, which only us can provide to like a landlocked, the Yunnan province in China. So because of all these And then, talking about people, which I just gave some answers to other reporters. Our people is such a hardworking, simple, and very sincere and very committed people. And then we have also come from the behind, so they know that they have to work hard. So these are the 2 or 3 very good qualities which we can easily utilize them and try to improve our competitiveness. And on top of that, the government is doing all the right kind of policies. And then we are also being guided by all the international organizations which want Myanmar to succeed. So because of all that, I'm quite confident that we can improve the competitiveness very quickly.
Okay, so you expect to surpass some of the neighboring countries, but what about the future? How do you see Myanmar in the future in terms of competitiveness?
That is much harder question to answer. In order to have a takeoff and to have a one-time boost is very easy because we are coming from behind and we are coming from the very low base. So I'm very confident that we can do a big boost. But the real challenge is how we're going to sustain the progress that we are going to make. So for the long run, the most important foundation is the human resources. Until and unless we can actually correct our past mistakes and then try to improve our human resources on an urgent basis, I think the question about the sustainability will still be very challenging. So we have to give priority to making our people more effective and efficient by providing all opportunities for all the people in our country so that they can actually learn and become a very productive citizens.
Do you think that we could see Myanmar to surpass Thailand in terms of competitiveness in the foreseeable future?
We can grow together because we are neighbor, and then there are many things that we can do it together. And so I'm very looking forward to having Thailand as a partner in our growth process. And as we found this morning, there are many compatibilities between Thailand and Myanmar to grow together because there are many things which we don't possess right now, but there are many things that we can offer to Thailand. So I think in that process, we don't have to compete for the top spot. We can actually help each other.
Coming back for the update on Thai-Myanmar border plan and the 3rd episode of Tibet series after the break.
Sponsored by Bangkok Bank, the Sukhothai Residences, SIPA New Decade Innovation, and Magnolia's Ratcharamri Boulevard.
A top Myanmar general said yesterday that close ties between Thailand and Myanmar will help end the hampered efforts to demarcate the country's borders. According to the Thai government spokesman Thirat Ratanasewi, Min Aung Hlaing, the commander-in-chief of Myanmar Armed Forces, supports Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawat's plan to complete the demarcation of borders between the two countries. The Myanmar general is optimistic about the possibility of the task being completed soon, he added, because close bilateral relations will drive officials to speed up the task. Thailand and Myanmar share borders stretching 2,400 kilometers, but only 59 kilometers close to the Sai and Ruk rivers in Chiang Rai have been marked. The demarcation of other areas have stalled because the two countries have been unable to decide on exactly where border markers should be placed. He and Yingluck, meanwhile, agreed to promote border trade by installing more permanent checkpoints between the countries while cracking down on drug crime on the border.
Now it's time for the third episode of Tibet series. Now this time it's the Chokhang Monastery, one of the most sacred Buddhist temple in Tibet. And of course, it is about the changing landscape around the temple. Let's see. If the Potala Palace is the sacred ultimate of Tibetan Mandala, and where the founding king of Tibet once resided, the Chokhang Monastery was originally constructed to serve as a temple the king worshipped. Nowadays, the Chokhang Monastery is the most celebrated temple in Tibet because the temple is not controlled by a particular sect of Tibetan Buddhism. It attracts adherents of all the sects as well as followers of Bongpo, Tibet's indigenous religion. Chokhang Monastery is another holy temple in Tibet. The Tibetan people, of course, the majority of the population, 95% of it, are Buddhists, come here to pay homage to the Sakyamuni, or the great Buddha of this temple, which is situated in the middle of this temple. The Chokhang Temple, a massive building consisting of 3 floors and an open roof all filled with chapels and chambers, has undergone extensive reconstructions and additions since the 7th century, particularly during the 17th century reign of the 5th Dalai Lama. While parts of the existing temple structure date from earlier times, most of the murals are from the 18th and 19th centuries, and few statues, with the notable exception of a Choyo Sakyamuni, are older than the 1980s. The temple was sacked several times during Mongol incursions, but its worst treatment has been in the hands of the Chinese since their occupation of Tibet in 1959. But the renovations in the 20th century are the most effective ones and have turned the whole landscape into one of the most visited tourist attractions, yet preserved the sacred environment of a temple as well as improved the local livelihood. According to Cheng Kwa-eng, a revamp project president of the Chokhang Monastery, the modern renovation project covers the old town area of 1.33 square meters, which has affected the local population who are living in this area.
为什么我们要实行这个老城区保护工程？基于以下几个这个因素，一个是呢，因为我们这个老城区呢是历史年代比较悠久，是吧？另外呢，我们这个老城区里面主要存在什么问题呢？一个是这个老城区里的居民的用电很困难，它那个负荷很高，而且里面这个偷电、私拉乱建的现象很重，这个，所以这个整个老城区这个消防安全隐患非常大，因为楼楼的线，特别是在雨季，然后那个下雨的时候呢，在很多巷子里面私拉乱建这个现象很多以后，它就下雨的时候冒火花，很容易发生这个火灾，这是主要的一个问题。另外呢，还有什么呢？现在老城区里面居住的居民呢，一个是呢上水、给水很不方便。现在很多这个里面的居住人口多，然后原来的管网布局不合理，这样造成呢我们这个很多这个住在。
Mr. Zhang added how the revamp project has contributed significantly a great deal of livelihood improvement to the locals.
不用说是我们那个世界文化遗产。更主要的是有那么多居民在里面，所以呢，随时给那个老城区的居民的这个生命财产安全带来很大的这个隐患，这是一个。另外，我们这次保护工程中，我们采取的还有一些这个与古城风貌特色不相符的一些呢，我们在立面上一些做了一些一些保护的工程，包括一些门窗的。 因为将来老城区里面要整个实行这个电才能工程，电才能工程以后，我们现在这个老百姓的这个居住这个环境呢，它原来这种的这个窗户呢，它这个密封不好，所以呢，这次我们呢主要在内部做了一些，把那个增加一些那个铝合金，断桥铝的铝合金，而且这个呢是双层玻璃的，所以它这个不管是节能节能方面呢带来很多影响。一旦通了这个什么暖气以后，将来它不会在这个什么。
The Chokhang Monastery does not only resemble local faiths and represent Tibetan religious identities, but also prove that local wisdom coexists peacefully with modernity. Patsurang Desha Puttarangsi reports. That's it for today's edition of Good Morning ASEAN. We'll see you again, same time, same place, same channel.
Thank you so much for joining. มีนาตุงประสิทธิ์
Ana Patsurang Desha Puttarangsi. สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ